Muscle metabolism. All muscle contractions need ATP. Without ATP, no muscle contractions can take place. Our book talks about two main pathways of muscle metabolism, anaerobic fermentation and aerobic respiration. It discussed different ways of ATP synthesis depending on the type of exercise and duration. It broke it down into three types of energy, the first one being immediate energy. This takes place when muscles are relaxed. The muscles produce more ATP than needed for resting metabolism, so the extra ATP transfers a phosphate group to the creatine, which then makes ADP and creatine phosphate. This is like a quick energy reserve to make ATP for when a muscle requires energy. When it does, then the creatine phosphate then gives back its phosphate group to the ADP in a reaction called creatine kinase, which then creates creatine and ATP. So then the ATP is used to create the muscle contraction. And this energy usually lasts about 10 to 15 seconds. The next energy is short-term energy, which is anaerobic fermentation. It usually comes from blood glucose and muscle glycogen, or glucose stored in the muscles. So once the energy in the phosphagen or in the immediate energy is used up, the muscles then transition into anaerobic fermentation, where the muscles will obtain energy from glucose from the blood and their own stored energy. Then it produces 2 ATPs and 2 pyruvates. If there is no oxygen, then the pyruvates turn into lactic acid that goes back into the blood. Energy usually lasts about 30 to 40 seconds. The next energy level is long-term energy. So if there is oxygen, then it'll go up to the aerobic respiration, which comes from glucose and fatty acids, and it takes place in the mitochondria. So glucose is basically broken down into pyruvic acid, which then produces 2 ATPs, which then gets broken down to carbon dioxide and water, which then they produce 34 ATP, which then, if you add it up, is 36 ATP per 1 glucose molecule. And that is muscle metabolism.